Alright, we are live, ladies and germs, here on this Labor Day, September the 6th, 2021, and it is really starting to become a struggle to cover these Formula One races because, I mean, they may have gotten this race in, but this race was fucking trash. It seems like that seems to be the norm for Formula One as of right now. So let's go ahead and get into it and get it over with. This is the fuel. What's happening, ladies and germs? This is the Packerman, and welcome to the first edition of the fuel today, because I will be doing a NASCAR review in a little bit. But to start out with, we're going to be covering the 2021 Dutch Grand Prix, which was at Zandvoort for the first time in nearly 4 decades. And honestly, after watching this race, kind of wondering why they even went back to begin with, because the race was fucking trash. We'll get into that in a minute. 110th edition of the fuel. The title of this episode: Zandvoort Z's. This race damn near put me to sleep. I mean, I was already half asleep when I got up early on a Sunday morning to watch this damn race. And it damn near put me back to sleep. And which one of you cats fucking farted? Like, Jesus Christ. God, I just got a whiff of that and just like, good Lord. I don't know which one of you cats farted, but Jesus Christ, man. But let's go ahead and get into it. I mean, Verstappen, the hometown hero, won the race. How many wins does that make for Verstappen this year? He has one. Shit. He has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, 6 and 1 Mickey Mouse one from Spa, which shouldn't have even fucking counted to begin with. You know, and just to clarify, you know, my feelings about Spa, you know, I'm not shitting on them really for them not wanting to go ahead with the race. I know they wanted to, I think they wanted to err on the side of caution as far as the weather was concerned. I just hate the fact that they seem to just want to run 2 laps behind the safety car to, I guess, kind of fulfill the requirements for awarding half points and then call it a day. You know, and they try to say otherwise, and I say, you know, you're full of shit. But there were a lot of people that were like, yeah, something needs to change about this, because this was fucking ridiculous. And it was ridiculous. But at least we saw a full race on Sunday, but even then, I'm not even sure if I wanted to. I mean, and there were a lot of people saying, oh my god, the championship fight is just so interesting, you know, and this, that, and the other. There's one small problem with that. The title race doesn't matter if the racing sucks. Okay? And here's the thing. This battle between Verstappen and Hamilton may have been maybe the best thing going for Formula One right now, considering that, you know, the championship battles of the last several years really haven't been all that interesting. With, you know, it's always been, you know, Mercedes wins all and all that other shit. But the thing is, if the racing completely sucks ass, nobody's going to care about the championship battle. And quite frankly, you know, the last couple weeks have really taken its toll on my enthusiasm for Formula One. I mean, after, you know, the whole debacle with, you know, the Belgian Grand Prix, it just, I mean, I honestly don't feel like covering this shit anymore. And truth be told, I'm probably not going to cover Formula One in 2022. You know, and after watching this race on Sunday, at the Dutch Grand Prix in Zandvoort. I just want to be like, yeah, the race was fucking boring. You couldn't pass for shit, and it was just a case of, you know, Verstappen just leading pretty much every single fucking lap. You know, just a bunch of stupid ass fucking bullshit. We'll talk to you next week. That's literally what I feel like saying right now. Because this race was so fucking ungodly boring that I literally almost went back to sleep watching this fucking race, just sitting in my chair doing this. That's literally what I almost did. Because this race was so ungodly awful. I mean, it rivaled Monaco in terms of how fucking boring it was. And if the racing has been absolute fucking dog shit, who gives a fuck about the championship battle? The championship battle is not going to mean shit if the racing is no good. The two kind of got to go hand in hand with each other. Now, every race doesn't have to be a gem, but a good portion of it sure shit does. I mean, if every single fucking race is boring, then who honestly gives a shit? I mean, if these races are hard to follow week after week after week because of how fucking boring they are, the truth of the matter is nobody's going to give a shit about the championship battle. And that's just the reality of the situation. With all that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into some news here, because there is quite a bit of news past couple weeks. I mean, I didn't do a review last week for the Belgian Grand Prix because there wasn't any point. There wasn't any race. Despite what, you know, the head honchos of the FIA want to try to say. That wasn't a race. That was a parade. There wasn't any green flag laps run, so I don't even want to fucking hear it. That's what I got to say about that. But the first thing on the docket is the Japanese Grand Prix has been canceled for 2021. It was originally scheduled to be held on October the 10th, but due to, you know, COVID still being a thing, of course they were having a logistical nightmare getting the Olympics in this year, which they did, albeit without fans in attendance, but they still got it in. But the logistical nightmare that would probably be trying to get all these teams in, and of course, you know, the 2-week quarantine and all that other shit, it's just not going to be possible for Formula One to go to the Japanese Grand Prix. So in effect, they have canceled it for 2021. And as far as I can tell, they have no plans on replacing it. At this moment in time, it's down to 22 races, which was originally 23. And they have confirmed that the Japanese Grand Prix will not be replaced. But they still plan on doing 22 races at the very least. They just don't know what race will be slotted in for round 20 on November the 21st. I mean, there's a couple races that they could do. Like the races that they had scheduled but were canceled due to the COVID pandemic were the Chinese Grand Prix. That's been officially canceled now. The Canadian Grand Prix, Singapore Grand Prix, the Australian Grand Prix, and now the Japanese Grand Prix. So the Japanese Grand Prix was originally scheduled for October the 10th, but that has been replaced with the Turkish Grand Prix. Then they have the U.S. Grand Prix 2 weeks after that, and Mexico, Sao Paulo, and then they got an open slot, round number 20. Don't know where they're going to be for that one yet, but they do plan on holding 22 races in 2021, which was originally 23, but you know, it is what it is. But anywho, moving on to some silly season news. First off, Sergio Perez is going to be staying with Red Bull for 2022. Obviously, they like what they see in him. Of course, he won earlier this year at the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, which was his second career win, although that was certainly under dubious circumstances. But obviously, they think they found a wingman for Mad Max Verstappen, and they wanted to keep him on board for 2022, which I certainly don't blame him. I mean, I think Perez has got some talent. I mean, he wouldn't be a winner in Formula One if he wasn't. You know, so I think that's a good move by Red Bull to keep Sergio Perez on board for 2022. But earlier this week, we learned that Kimi Räikkönen, will retire after the 2021 season. Of course, he holds the record for the most starts ever in Formula One. Where's his name at? Where you at, Kimi? There we go. At the moment, he has 341 career starts, which is the most of all time. 21 career wins, 103 podiums. Of course, a world championship. Back in 2007 when he was driving for Ferrari. And he will be retiring at the end of this season. Of course, he's 41 years old, you know, pretty much at the end of his career. And he's had a long-ass career, to say the least. I mean, I remember him racing all the way back in 2003 with McLaren. But he's been racing since 2001. He started with Sauber, with McLaren for 5 seasons, then went to Ferrari, left Formula One for a couple years, then he returned to Formula One driving for Lotus for 2 years. Then he returned to Ferrari for 5 more years, and then he's been with Alfa Romeo for the last 3. And he is now retiring after this season. And his season took a little bit of a hit because he had to pull out of this week's race because he tested positive for COVID. So Robert Kubica took over for him for the Dutch Grand Prix. But it'll be interesting to see what Räikkönen does in the future. Obviously, he probably has other racing endeavors that he wants to go into, because he went into rallying after he left Formula One for a couple of years, but then he came back. And now he's officially retiring for good after this season. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of racing endeavors he has lined up after 2021. But here was the bombshell announcement. Valtteri Bottas will not be back at Mercedes in 2022. Instead, he is going to be replacing Räikkönen at Alfa Romeo for 2022. Well, I mean, considering where Alfa Romeo is at the moment, and I think I forgot. Yeah, I forgot. Fuck. Alright, let me see if I can multitask here. I mean, considering where Alfa Romeo is right now, I mean, I think here in 2021. They are 9th in the constructor standings after 10 races, or of 10 teams, after 13 races, and has just 2 points overall. I mean, I'm guessing. I mean, I realize that there's not a whole lot of seats available in Formula One. I mean, there's only 20 seats available, but man, that is quite a downgrade, to say the least. To go from Mercedes, you know, championship winning team, to Alfa Romeo. I mean, that is a downturn in one's career, I'll tell you that much. And it's a shame because I think Valtteri Bottas definitely has some great talent, which is probably why he got signed to Mercedes. But, you know, obviously there have been some issues. Here in 2021, he hasn't even won yet. Although he has been on the podium. He is 3rd in points. So, I'm not exactly sure why they're letting Valtteri Bottas go. And Hamilton certainly doesn't seem to be all that thrilled about Bottas leaving. You know, he's had... I mean, I remember when Nico Rosberg was his teammate, and the two seemed to be in a feud every single week. But you didn't really get that feeling with Hamilton and Bottas. They definitely seemed like they worked well together. And I don't know why you would want to break that up, other than Bottas maybe, you know, either not pulling his own weight, which he still is. He's 3rd in points, I believe. He just moved into 3rd in points because he finished on the podium at Zandvoort. But yeah, it's a really odd move, to say the least. You know, for Mercedes to let Bottas go. Which begs the question, who's going to be the one to be Lewis Hamilton's new teammate? Well, odds are it could be George Russell. Of course, when Hamilton had COVID last year, who was the guy who was brought in to fill that seat? George Russell. Because George Russell is a Mercedes development driver. And of course, he got his quote-unquote first career podium at the Belgian Grand Prix, even though it was a bit of a hollow one. But I mean, he did finish on the podium, and he did get quite a bit of points for Williams. So I mean, he had a stellar qualifying effort in the rain for that race. I mean, he qualified P2. I mean, that's pretty damn impressive in a Williams. So, I mean, I think Russell, given the right equipment, I think he could really compete in Formula One. And even though it hasn't really been confirmed yet, all signs point to George Russell going to Mercedes in 2022. But we'll have to wait and see. I believe that is all for the news and shit. So let's go ahead and get into this review, which won't take all that long because not a whole hell of a lot happened. It was a 72 lap race because this is one of the shortest tracks on the schedule at just 2.6 miles. It's a very unique track. It has some banked curves, which is unusual for Formula One. Of course, like I said, first time in nearly 4 decades that the Dutch Grand Prix has been held. The last time it was held, it was the site of the last win in the Formula One career of Niki Lauda, en route to his 3rd and final Formula One championship. May he rest in peace. Definitely one of the greatest drivers of all time. Certainly in his time as well. But let's go ahead and get into this review. Perez and Nicholas Latifi had to start from the pit lane after having to replace parts on their car from separate crashes in practice. So they had to start from the pit lane. which made Perez's run all the more impressive. So Max Verstappen, of course the hometown hero, starts on the pole. You know, as soon as they were going around for the formation lap, the fans were already letting off flares and all that other shit, which is what they like to do. Very boisterous crowd, to say the least. And of course they would be boisterous. I mean, they finally have a racing hero in Max Verstappen. You know, the only Dutch driver to ever lead in Formula 1, to ever win in Formula 1, and to ever lead the World Championship. That's a big deal. Alright, so we got a good clean start. I mean, for the most part, this race was pretty clean. There was some baiting and banging a little bit, and there was like 1 or 2 spin outs. But other than that, I mean, it was a pretty clean race. There weren't any safety cars whatsoever. I'm going to go ahead and throw that on there. There were no safety cars. It was clean and green the whole way. So I guess that was one plus. So I'm just going to say it right now. This race is not going to get a 0. Just simply because it did go by quickly and there were 0 safety cars. But this race still sucked ass. Ricciardo looked like he was smoking from his McLaren on lap 2. Didn't know if it was like an engine problem. I think it made it the whole way though, so that's kind of amazing. There was some contact back in the pack, but still good. That didn't really damage fenders or wings or anything like that, so which was amazing. Gasly in 4th. He qualified 4th, he stayed in 4th, but just 6 laps in, he was already more than 11 seconds back. Yeah, you already know where this is going when, you know, 4th on back is already more than a double-digit deficit back. You just know what it's going to be. It was basically, as per the usual, Red Bull versus Mercedes. Verstappen did get a pretty big milestone. He surpassed 1,000 laps led in his career. This guy is only 23 years old. He is only 23 years of age. He was born in 1997. And in 132 career starts, he has 17 wins at the age of 23. With 52 podiums. He already has 52 podiums in his career. With 10 career poles, 7 of which have come this year. He's led 700, or no, he's done 712 laps. He's raced 712 laps. He has led 468 total laps this year. Almost half of his career total has come in this year. I mean, that just goes to show you how good this guy is. I mean, he is definitely the future of Formula 1. He's basically the next coming of Lewis Hamilton. The next coming of Michael Schumacher. The next coming of Ayrton Senna. I mean, you always have these like once in a generation type drivers that come along, and Verstappen, he's that next guy. 23 years of age, he already has 17 career wins. Unreal. But yeah, at this point, the race was really starting to really get boring. I mean, I was really falling asleep. Hamilton was the first to come in for fresh tires on lap 21. Verstappen follows suit the next lap to cover him. Bottas stays out, potentially doing a one-stop strategy, which they would eventually abandon. The mid-pack beginning to pit on lap 25. Hamilton trying to keep pace for Verstappen, which he was actually doing pretty good at, but he just wasn't able to catch him and pass him. Verstappen hounding Bottas for the race lead and eventually gets by him for a one and only pure lead change on lap 30. Hamilton also gets by Bottas for second, and he's just 7/10 behind Verstappen. Again, kept pretty close to Verstappen, just couldn't pull off the pass. Bottas comes in for medium tires. Russell hit with a 5-second time penalty for speeding on pit road. Vettel spins in turn 3 but gets it back going right in front of Bottas too, which that must have been a pants-shitting moment for Bottas. Hamilton comes in on lap 40 for their second stop on fresh mediums. Verstappen comes in on the next lap for hard tires on lap 41. Hamilton tries his best to get within striking distance of Verstappen. Sergio Perez, after starting from the pit lane, gets by Daniel Ricciardo for the 10th position. And then he gets by Lando Norris for the 9th position, and that's basically all that happened in this race, other than Valtteri Bottas accidentally stealing fastest lap from Lewis Hamilton. He was actually told to slow down, which, according to timing and scoring, he actually did slow down in the final sector. The problem was he was so damn fast in the first and second sectors that even though he slowed down for the third sector, he still took the fastest lap, as the cat nearly stumbles again. So that forced Lewis Hamilton to come in for fresh reds, and but he set a blisteringly fast lap, and it was actually a new track record, I believe, because when Bottas set the new fastest lap, it also said that it was also a new track record, and then Hamilton went out and took the fastest lap back, so that's a bonus point for Hamilton. I mean, they basically conceded the win to Verstappen. You know, he was just too good today, and he was not going to be stopped at his home racetrack. Doesn't matter what you do. So Verstappen wins his 17th career win, 7th win of the year, his 6th legit win of the year. Not even going to think about the Belgian Grand Prix. So, statistics. There were 2 overall lead changes in this race, with 1 pure lead change. You know, I think that's really the only thing that saves this race from being a 0. This race was almost as boring as Monaco. Alright, race results for the Dutch Grand Prix. Verstappen, of course, with the win. Then you have the 2 Mercedes drivers, Hamilton and Bottas, 2nd and 3rd. Pierre Gasly with a top 5 run in the AlphaTauri. Good run for him. Charles Leclerc finishing in P5. Rest of the top 10, Fernando Alonso, who I think is just outperforming the quality. I mean, he's getting more out of that Alpine Renault machine than I think it literally should be possible. But then again, I mean, Ocon did snag the win in Hungary about a month ago, which is pretty crazy. But Alonso's definitely punching above his weight in that Alpine. Carlos Sainz comes home in the 7th position. They have Perez in the Red Bull, who actually came home in P8, despite the fact that he had to start from the pit lane. Comes home in the 8th position. Esteban Ocon, the other Alpine, in 9th, and then Lando Norris rounds out the top 10. Not a good day for McLaren whatsoever. And I should also point out, just to show you how bad this race was, only the top 3 drivers finished on the lead lap. Everybody up to 4th was a lap down. Yuck. Driver standings after the Dutch Grand Prix. So Verstappen retakes the championship lead, but it's only a 3-point edge. So the championship is really close right now between Verstappen and Hamilton. Bottas, with his podium, moves back up into 3rd in the driver standings. He's now 9 points ahead of Norris, who drops to 4th. Sergio Perez maintains his 5th spot. Leclerc and Sainz swap spots in the Ferraris. Then you have Pierre Gasly, who moves up to 8th in the driver standings with his 4th place finish with 66 points. Daniel Ricciardo drops to 9th with 56 points. And Fernando Alonso moves up to the top 10 in the driver standings with 46 points. And then constructor standings. Despite the fact that Max Verstappen got the win for Red Bull and got 25 points, Mercedes ended up scoring 34 points and therefore extend their constructor standings lead over Red Bull to 22 total points. Or no, 12 points, excuse me. Over Red Bull in the constructor standings. So Sergio Perez kind of needs to get some things in order, because I mean, I think that's the difference right now. Ferrari moves ahead of McLaren in the constructor standings to P3. Now 11.5 points ahead of McLaren. Alpine, and the rest of the running order remains as is. Alpine in 5th. Then you have AlphaTauri, Aston Martin, Williams, Alfa Romeo, who actually has 3 points. I thought it was 2, it's actually 3. And of course, Haas, who continues to suck major ass. Just like their cup program right now. Sideswipe. Anyways, as for my final rating for this race was fucking boring. I mean, if it weren't for the fact that there was some interesting strategy, the race was clean and green, and there was some lead changes and a pure lead change in this race, which Monaco can't really say. I mean, it saved this race from being a 0, and I do rank it slightly better than Monaco, but this race was still trash. The best I can give it is a 2. I mean, it was just not that good. But, yeah. Not a good race. Hopefully the next one is better. What is the next Grand Prix? What do you want, Cat? Alright, looking at the schedule, Dutch Grand Prix, September the 5th. Next week is the Italian Grand Prix at Monza. Yeah, that's going to be a high-speed, horsepower, downforce type track, because it's basically all straights and a bunch of chicanes. That's what Monza is nowadays. But that's going to be next week, September the 12th. And then they take a week off, and then they return September the 26th for the Russian Grand Prix. So that, ow, fucking cat, with your goddamn claws. Fucking cats, man. I just saw myself on the replay and I'm just laughing right now. Oh, Lord. But, anywho, that's going to do it for this edition of the Fuel coverage of the Formula One Dutch Grand Prix, which was a total borefest. I will be covering the Southern 500 later on today. Just gotta get everything set up and all that good stuff. And we'll do that coming up soon. So thank you very much for watching, and until next time, this is the Packer Man signing out. See you later.
Thank you for watching tonight's video. Be sure to like and subscribe, you rats!